Hello, everybody. I'm about to review Spider-Man No Way Home, Marvel's third edition of the Spider-Man series. This is the home series of Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home, and now this third one, No Way Home. So reprising his role is Tom Holland as Spider-Man, and this is going to be a spoiler review. So if you haven't seen the movie, go watch it and then come back. But here we go. Let's get into this. So this movie takes off where the last one left off. The villain from that, Mysterio, revealed to the public in the news Spider-Man's real identity is Peter Parker. Spider-Man is now freaked out, has to figure out how to solve this problem with people intervening in his life, knowing his friends, his family, lawyer. In the middle of the movie, people are coming after him saying he's a criminal because they think that he had killed Mysterio and some people believe Spider-Man's innocent, some people don't. So it takes off where they have to figure out how to fix this whole situation. Spider-Man even has to lawyer up with the surprised guest, which is Daredevil from the Daredevil series, my favorite superhero show. And he comes in as a lawyer, as Matt Murdock, saying, "I got your back." But after all the shenanigans, Spider-Man has to figure out, what am I going to do next? To fix this situation, Spider-Man meets up with his former Avenger, still Avenger, who they had to fight Thanos with, Doctor Strange. He tells Doctor Strange, "These people are interfering in my life. I'm being charged with crimes. I had a lawyer up." And he's saying, me, my friend Ned, and Mary Jane, we can't even go to college because people know of my history and it's affecting people's lives around me. And throughout this, he's trying to keep his relationship intact with Mary Jane, but people are intervening. So he's telling Doctor Strange, "Can you help me out? Can you turn back time? Because I know you've done that before." Doctor Strange says, "I can't. I don't have the time stone anymore." But he says, "I can wipe people's minds clean so that they don't know who you are, if that's what you want." So they jump right into this. Spider-Man's like, "Yeah." Midway through the spell, Peter Parker realizes, "Oh my God, does that mean that Mary Jane will forget me? Ned will forget me? My Aunt May will forget me?" So he's like, "Doctor Strange, no, don't make this person forget. Don't make this person forget." Right in the middle of the spell, and boom, the spell is screwed up. Unknowingly, they create the problem of this whole movie, which is that they opened a dimension, multiple dimensions, to other worlds with villains that have encountered Spider-Man before. They don't know this at first, but when Spider-Man leaves, he encounters Doc Ock from another Spider-Man series, from Spider-Man 2 of the Sam Raimi series. And you saw this in the trailers, but people were shocked. They're like, "Oh my gosh," because I saw that movie in theaters way back. You're like, "That's Doc Ock." So he's fighting him, and then he's like, they realize, "Oh, I don't know you, and you're not my Peter Parker. You're some other Spider-Man dude." And he also encounters the Green Goblin from the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man film. But then he gets flashed back to Doctor Strange, and then Doctor Strange explains this to him. "Well, you messing up the spell with me caused this whole situation. We open dimensions where villains that know Spider-Man are coming to this world, and we have to catch them, put them back, and correct this whole mess." Spider-Man's like, "Oh my gosh, okay, I'll do this." And they have these little chambers where they could keep the villains in. And he sees another villain, which is the Lizard. That was from the Amazing Spider-Man, the first film. And of course, Peter Parker, Tom Holland's Peter Parker, doesn't know who that is. So he's like, "Oh, geez. Okay, we got the Doc Ock guy, we got this Lizard guy, and I've seen a dude that's green and was on a glider." So he's like, I'm gonna go get him. So he agrees with Doctor Strange. "Let's go get these guys." He goes, and then he's hearing news about interference. He's like, "Oh, it must be the Green Goblin." So he goes out, and after having Ned and Mary Jane help him out, because they know this situation, and Ned's his guy in the chair, and he's going to help him out, and Mary Jane is his support. So they tell him, "Go out, Well, when they find this other villain, they realize, no, it's not the Green Goblin. It's actually the Electro from the Amazing Spider-Man 2. He is taking energy from power wires outside. Spider-Man's like, oh crap. And while he's fighting Electro, starring Jamie Foxx, another dude comes up. It is the Sandman from Spider-Man 3. All these villains. It's awesome. A big nostalgia throwback. If you've seen those movies, you're a Spider-Man fan, you're a true Spider-Man you know all these characters, and it's fantastic. But then he ends up catching all of them, comes back to Doctor Strange, and he's like, oh, Doctor Strange, we can send these people back and fix this whole situation. Well, Aunt May encounters the Green Goblin, who Spider-Man was looking for, and it turns out that Green Goblin isn't in his bad form. He's actually Norman Osborn, his original human self, and he's very confused and out of touch. And Aunt May saying, we can't send these people back, because she figures out that each of these people that came back, they die in that world. All these villains that came back, they die in their previous worlds and are brought here. And Aunt May's like, we can't send them back to die. This Lloyd Osborn is a regular person. We need to help them, fix them, cure them. Spider-Man's like, I don't know about that, but we can't just send them to die. And then Doctor Strange is like, we're sending this back. We have to fix this whole situation. Then there's a showdown between Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, because Spider-Man's like, wait, I'm not going to kill these folks. I got to save them. We're heroes. Doctor Strange's all, it's too dangerous to keep them alive. So they have a fight in the mirror dimension. And Spider-Man, this was awesome. He beats Doctor Strange and outsmarts him because he knows geometry and the mathematics between the mirrors. So he created his own little spider web and caught Doctor Strange in the middle of it, which was pretty great scene. So after that, he takes a little item from Doctor Strange, a little wizard item, and gives it to Ned. Ned has it on his hand. And he gathers Mary Jane, Ned, and he tells all the villains, and he says, we got to cure all of y'all, because you guys are going to die if you come back. We got to help your situation. Some of these villains are like, I don't want to die. Yeah. And other ones are like, there's nothing wrong with me. So he's trying to fix these dudes. And in the middle of this, he goes to a Tony Stark machine that is really good at breaking. It's good machinery, and he's using it as a tool so that he could cure these people with Electro's powers, to where he could control his electricity. Trying to come up with the way to control Doc Ock's arms, and it's going well. All this is going well when, unbeknown to Spider-Man, is Norman Osborn was never Norman Osborn. He was posing as it, and he was Green Goblin the whole time. So Green Goblin breaks it all apart and says, you can't save us. You're not man enough to do what you should have done, which is killed us. So he really eggs it on. He lets the villains free, stops a lot of them from being healed. In the middle of this, he kills Aunt May. And during Aunt May's last part of life, she says, Peter, you did the right thing. And then she says a line that's an homage back to all the Spider-Man stories, is, you did the right thing saving people. With great power comes great responsibility. And unfortunately, she passes in a dramatic, emotional moment. I was really sad, and it was unexpected for me when I was in the theater. So I was with a bunch of friends, and it was really sad. So Spider-Man's like, oh my God, me trying to save these people instead of sending them back like I could have. I got my Aunt May killed. So he flees. The news shows this, and they're dogging him, saying he's a villain, he's a killer, he caused this whole mess. And Spider-Man is down and low because Aunt May is gone. Everything's chaotic, and he feels like everything he does, he's screwing stuff up. Meanwhile, Ned and Mary Jane are back, and they're like, oh my goodness, we got to help Parker out. We don't know where he's at. And then Ned, with the little magician utensil in his hand, he says, I wish that Spider-Man would be here. And then all of a sudden, a portal appears, and they're like, oh shit. And they see Spider-Man in a suit. They're like, hey, Peter, come in. And in the middle of it, jumps in is a Spider-Man. Not the Spider-Man they're thinking of. The dude whips off his mask, and then it reveals it is Andrew Garfield from the Amazing Spider-Man series. Throwback, catches people off guard, and the crowd was wild when he came in. They're like, "Who the hell are you?" He's like, "I'm Peter Parker, but I'm not from this world. I'm not your Peter." They're like, "Whatever, BS, BS." And Mary Jane's like, "Okay, climb on the wall." Spider-Man jumps, and he's like hanging on the wall. He's like, "Yeah, I'm Spider-Man." And they're like, "Oh shoot, Ned." Mary Jane's like, "Ned, did you brought him back when you used that thing? Do it again and bring back the real Spider-Man." So he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna try this again." He does another portal thing, and then opens the portal, and then one of the happiest moments for me is when the OG Spider-Man from the Sam Raimi series came in, Tobey Maguire. He stepped in, and the crowd's like, "Whoa, whoa!" And for me, I was like, "Whoa, this has been so long since he's been in a movie, a Spider-Man film." I saw all those back, Spider-Man 1, 2, 3 in theaters when I was younger, and I was like, "Wow, it's been so long." You could tell he's older. But then they see him, he doesn't have a spider suit on. They're like, "Oh, it's just some regular guy." So Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, they look at each other and they're like, they web at each other, and then they flip and dodge it, and then they realize, oh, they're both Spider-Man. And then they have this conversation like, "Wow, how'd we get here, blah, blah, blah." It's pretty cool. Mary Jane and Ned explain to them, "Hey, you were brought back from a dimension through a wizard, and our current Spider-Man, Tom Holland, is in a situation. His aunt was just murdered, and everything's gone in chaos. These bad guys that these guys have fought in the past, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, are coming in causing chaos." And them having similar situations where they lost a loved one, are like, "Okay, it seems like he needs help. Let's go help this kid." So they go in, they all meet him, and Tom Holland's like, Peter Parker, like, "Who the hell are you guys?" He's like, they're like, "We're Spider-Man." He's like, "No, you guys can't be here. I shouldn't have let you guys stay here to begin with. I'm going to send you guys all back to your own dimension so that none of this crap gets any bit worse." And he's like, "I lost my Aunt May, and what she told me was a mistake." It's like, she said, "With great power comes," and then in the middle of him saying that, Tobey Maguire jumps in. He finishes his sentence. He says, "Comes great responsibility." And this is a big thing in the film because originally Uncle Ben died, and it was first shown as big in the movies back in the day in the Sam Raimi's, where Ben Parker said, "With great power comes great responsibility." And Andrew Garfield comes in, he says, "My uncle said the same thing." And he said, and they get together and they say, "We got to help these people. Maybe your Aunt May didn't die for no reason. Let's fix this situation and not send these people to die." So they meet at the Statue of Liberty, which I thought was an awesome spot for a showdown. And they have this plan to devise how to get all these villains and cure them and then send them back. In the middle of them making the cure and them getting to the spot they're going to be, they have conversations about, "Hey, what villains have you fought? Dude, do you have your spider suit?" And they realize that Tobey Maguire doesn't have web cartridges. They're like, "Okay, where do your webs come from?" He's like, "Oh, it just comes out of me." They're like, "What? That comes out of you? Does it come out of anywhere else?" And they're like, kind of having this little spider conversation, which is awesome, which you've never seen in a superhero movie before. It's great. It's a big nostalgia throwback, pointing out the differences of these franchises, and it really makes the audience have like some of the best fan service you have in a superhero movie. So they meet at the Statue of Liberty, and then these villains come. And my favorite part of the movie is when they all jump off the Statue of Liberty and they start webbing. They're like, "Woo!" Because they're like a spider trio, and they're like, it's fun as hell, the web sling. So they're all just like shouting and hollering, and they're ready to take on these bad guys. It's great. So they take on one by one. They take off Electro. They shrink his powers down to where he's no longer this big electric dude. Doc Ock, his arms were no longer controlling him. Sandman, they cured him so that he would no longer break to sand. Lizard, they cured him like they did in the previous Amazing Spider-Man film. Am I missing anybody? They cured everybody. But the last one was the showdown between Green Goblin and Peter Parker, Tom Holland's Peter Parker. And after probably the best fight scenes in these home movies is between Tom Holland and Green Goblin. He gets the upper hand on Green Goblin and he grabs his blade, his glider, and he's about to stab Green Goblin with it. But previously, the other Spider-Man had caused damage by trying to get vengeance on who killed their uncle. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man tried to stop the dude that killed Uncle Ben, and that guy ended up dying in the process. So to stop Tom Holland from becoming a murderer, Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire jumps and stops him, and he lets him know, hey, don't do this. This isn't the way. This isn't you. So, finally, Doctor Strange makes his way back in the middle of this big climax, and he notices that more worlds are opening up, bringing in more villains, and then he tells Tom Holland, we can't do anything. They're all going to come in. Tom Holland says, fine. Erase my memory from everybody. Nobody should know who I am. If this causes more people's lives at danger, take them all out. And then Doctor Strange is like, no, Parker, everybody that loves you won't remember you. And Parker's like, I have to do this. So at the end, he has this emotional moment with Mary Jane, played by Zendaya. He's like, I gotta go. I can't stay here anymore because people's lives are at risk. And she's like, I don't want to forget you. And he has to tell his friend Ned, I gotta go, man. So there is this sad moment. And in the end, once Doctor Strange finally wipes things clear and everybody forgets who Spider-Man is, Tom Holland is about to go and see Mary Jane and Ned, and he's about to tell them who he is and fill them in, but he notices that they're happy and that they made it into the colleges that they were trying to get into without him interfering. So he decides on his own that he's like, no, I'm going to let them live their lives and I'm going to be my own man. And I love this ending because this is really, it brings back, similar to the other Spider-Man movies, he's not, in this movie, he's not an Avenger Spider-Man, he's a solo Spider-Man, his own thing in this one, which they kind of puts the period at the end of this movie. And you see him web slinging in his new full Spider-Man suit. It's not the Tony Stark suit, it's his own Spider-Man suit. And it shows him doing his own thing. And I love the ending. This is to give it a rating, this is one of my favorite Spider-Man movies, up there with like Spider-Man 1 and 2, but this is definitely tied with those as my favorite Spider-Man film. 10 out of 10, amazing, spectacular. Hope they make some more in the future. I don't know how you top this. So, yeah. Hope you guys like this review. I will make more in the future. If you like this, hit that like button, subscribe, and I will see you in the future. Alright, much love. Have a good one.